Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Communications and Cigars. I'm your host, John Crook. Thank you for tuning in. It is Monday, the week before Hamcation, so we got a couple of interesting things to talk about here, and we're excited to do that. So thank you for tuning in. And this is a pre-recorded episode. I'm sorry. Busy week here getting ready for Hamcation, as well as that kind of stuff like that. We were busy last week, didn't have an episode. Next week, we're probably going to skip an episode 2 on there. But you know what? If we don't have an episode, take a look at our YouTube channel and look at one of the old videos on there. So once again, welcome. I'm your host, John Crook. Thank you for tuning in. And what do we do on Communications and Cigars? Well, we talk about communications, and of course, we talk about cigars. But as first, always, before we get started, I want to thank everybody for always tuning in. It's very greatly appreciated when you go ahead and come on the show and watch it either live or on the replay. The comments, the emails, it's all very, very greatly appreciated, and I do appreciate that. But Communications Cigars, we meet here Monday nights, whether it's recorded or not. And sometimes, once again, we can't always make the show every week on here. But one of our supporters of Communications and Cigar is JJK Communications. So if you do have a question for the show or something like that, go ahead and reach out to us, communications-cigars at jjkcom.com. Once again, communications-cigars at jjkcom.com. JJK Communications is a proud supporter of Communications and Cigars. They're the ones that give us all this nice equipment that we can use and all these kind of things like that to help fund our YouTube channel here that we do. We don't take solicitations from anybody, and then they do help us, and then in turn we give them a little shout back to them. But what is tonight's episode about? Well, tonight's episode is basically buyer beware for purchasing used radio equipment. And then in addition, we're going to talk about our cigar exchange. So before we dive into the topic of the tonight's episode, the buyer beware, buying used equipment, let's talk about our cigars, and let's talk about the cigar exchange program. That's right, the cigar exchange program. We are going to do this year. So started here on Communications and Cigars, and basically what it is that when you're down at Hamcation and you see anybody there that you know that enjoys cigars, or you're from the channel or whatever, come on up to them and saying, hey, cigar exchange for Communications and Cigars. And then what you need to do is you need to be able to exchange cigars with them. So how does the program work? Well, there's a couple rules we got to do. First of all, you need to be of legal age. Okay, we can't be exchanging cigars with people who are underage or anything like that. So we do need to keep it legal. That's going to be the first thing. Make sure it is totally 100% legal. With the age thing, we also need to go ahead and make sure that you are using or exchanging legal cigars on there. So sometimes people may get special cigars from different countries or something like that. If it's not a legal cigar in the U.S., can't be part of the cigar exchange. But in essence, what you'll do is that you'll meet the person and then go ahead and say, would you like to do the Communications cigar exchange? And if they say yes, then you will go ahead and exchange the cigar with the other person. So what you do is you'll be able to pick out your favorite cigar, whatever you have, whatever you like from your collection. Okay. And then what you do basically is the cigar needs to be unopened, untampered, sealed, those kind of things like that. And there's a numerous set of reasons for that. Obviously, probably the first and foremost biggest thing is going to go ahead and be to make sure that the cigar does maintain its freshness. You should also try to maintain cigars at their good optimum temperature. Remember, 70 degrees Fahrenheit and about 70% humidity or so on there. But if someone does come up with you at your pick, so once again, your pick, you could take from your repository of cigars that you have and select the one that you would like to go to the other person, and that other person will select a cigar that they would like to exchange with you. Now, in addition to that, understand that some cigars may be of different sizes, shapes, kinds. You may exchange a Toro, you may exchange a Torpedo, you may exchange a box press, whatever the case may be. The whole thing, the whole premise of the cigar exchange is to obviously, once again, share camaraderie and kind of meet people face to face, but then to also say, hey, I really like this cigar, I really enjoy this cigar, and those kind of things like that. So don't be afraid to go ahead and partake in the cigar exchange. Now, the reason I do that is I know a lot of people know I like cigars, and hence Communications and Cigars. And then what they'll do from time to time is they come up and they will give me a cigar. Well, I do appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. But then also, too, is I do feel a little guilty that I was given a cigar and not anything back. So by all means, feel free to go ahead and do the cigar exchange. I'm excited about it because I know there's a lot of different other cigars and tastes out there than what I may be aware of. And, you know, it's kind of one of those deals where it's like, this is a good chance to say, hey, I like this brand or I love this brand of cigar. Let's exchange it. Here, try this one and I'll try one of yours on there. Now, the one thing that we do ask is let's not go ahead and try to do any of the cheap cigars. So in other words, don't go buy some Swisher Sweets and pass those out. Really take time. This is a good chance to say, hey, I really like this brand. Try this brand. Or I really like this flavor or whatever the case may be. And explain it to them and stuff like that. And they'll enjoy it. Now, once you've done the cigar exchange, that is your time to smoke it when you have a chance or to, you know, take leisure with it whatsoever. Understand that some people may have cigars that are going to require a punch. They're going to require a cut. Who knows what the case may be. So make sure you have all your tools available. I, for my trip, always bring my little travel humidor, which also looks like my little golf bag. And then also, too, is I like to go and carry my different punches. And, of course, when I travel, I actually, unfortunately, buy lighters down where I'm at. Just because it's hard to travel with, like, a lighter and stuff like that on there. I usually go ahead and travel with no light stuff, and then I can, you know, buy it. And it's a short time, so there's nothing really wrong with running over and buying a $1 Bic, in my opinion, there, or buying some matches at, you know, the wherever. Also, too, is don't be afraid to try to find a cigar shop down in the area where you're at. You'd be surprised at how many times and places people will go ahead and they'll say, oh, yeah, go here with that and everything like that. So that is going to be the Communications and Cigars exchange program for Hamcation 2024. And if it takes off and it does really good at Hamcation, you know what? Maybe we might go ahead and try it at Hamvention and some of the other big events that take place later on in the year. So that's the cigar part of Communications and Cigars. Let's move on to what tonight's topic is about. Buyer beware, buying used radios. Now, the reason I wanted to bring up this topic, and I've brought it up a few times on shows in the past, is because, unfortunately, not everyone is a good, reputable seller. Unfortunately, sometimes people will try to put lipstick on a pig and tell you that it's a heifer. That's what one person told me one time. I think it's kind of a great kind of, great kind of thing on there to say it. But anyways, point of what I'm getting at is that with this aspect of things, you need to be aware of it. It is obviously a lot easier to buy a used radio face-to-face with someone than it is to do it over the internet or do it through online. A lot of scammers online. eBay used to be really rampant with that, and that's kind of quashed down with eBay because what has happened with eBay is they've tightened it up a little bit, and eBay, especially paying with PayPal, you have these kind of things that kind of manifest from there. But we're going to talk about a few things that you should be thinking about and being aware of so you do not get burned when you're buying used at these big events. Now, the reason I started it and want to do the show around Hamcation is because I've been to Hamcation for going on. This will be my 6th year that I've been down there, and it's been great. And I've walked out to the flea market area, let's say it out there, and I've seen a lot of great deals, and I've seen a lot of crap, and that's no easy way to put it. And then I've seen on those great deals, I've seen deals almost too good to be true. And I've seen deals that someone is trying to go ahead and get full retail value of a radio that, was sold in 1992. That's why I figured, let's talk about this. And it doesn't just apply to Hamcation. I want to stress, I'm not dogging anybody at Hamcation, but this is at any sort of event. Okay, whether it's your local swap, whether it's actually going ahead and buying used radios, not in conjunction with the event or anything like that, these are some of the things to keep in mind. Okay, so first start off, I think the most important part is know who your buyer is. Okay, know who the seller is. So if you are going to buy a radio from someone, know who that seller is. Okay, do they just go by the name of Bill and they don't really have any further information? Is it a company doing it? Does this person, is this person have a call sign as if they're an amateur? If someone is doing it, like as a, my department is selling this. Okay, what department do you work for? Get the particulars of that seller. If you are the seller and now you're doing the buyer, get information from that buyer too. Don't be afraid to get their full name. Don't be afraid to ask them what they're going ahead and using it for. It really is kind of a back and forth kind of situation. There are sellers out there who are not reputable. There are sellers out there who may be selling used equipment that doesn't belong to them, or they might be trying to, once again, put, lipstick on a pig and call it a heifer, where they will refurb a case and then they'll go ahead and try to make it look like it's almost a brand new radio, where really the radio isn't on there. So that's where you really want to know. I will tell you this, I know of some people that when I go to these events and shows, I will go to them specifically to see what they have. And they give me a very good, reasonable price, maybe even a little bit more of a discount than what a general person would come up. But they know that if I'm buying the radio, I'm doing it for a specific purpose, and that they're going to give me a good deal. They know I'm a good buyer. I know that they're a good seller. Now, once again, reversing the thing there, sellers, be aware of your buyers. I say be aware of your buyers because in this day and age, I hate to say it, but there are some people who are whackers, right? There are some people who want to carry a radio just because they want to carry a radio, okay? Or they want to be cool, or they want to program the public safety frequencies in there, or they want to do non-affiliated scan and those kind of things. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't sell to them, but what I'm saying in this case is make sure you're aware of who they are, okay? And be very, very locked in regards to your terms of selling. Alrighty. When I personally have a radio that's new and it has a warranty, I will advise they have a warranty. But not all new radios have warranties if you are reselling the radio. Okay. I will make sure that the person buying the used radio maybe might be able to say, yeah, you know what? There is no warranty on this. Or if I'm selling it on behalf of a business or something like that, I may warranty the radio. But set your terms up front as a seller. That way they can't come back to you. Even better yet, go ahead and write down those terms on a piece of paper and use that also too as the receipt. We'll get to transactions in just a moment though. So really go ahead and set forth those informations, because if you don't set forth that information, this is where it really becomes a sticky situation. This is really where it could be someone could buy the radio from you and then they have what they call buyer's remorse. Alrighty. And that happens out there, folks. It happens with a lot of people where they'll be like, oh my God, that radio's only $200. God, I see it everywhere else for $300. And you buy that radio for $200 and you're like, shit, why did I need this other radio? And then they have buyer remorse and, hey, I want to return this radio. Well, I'm not returning for you. Too bad, so sad. Or they'll go ahead and they get mad at themselves, but they can't get mad at themselves. They got to get mad at you. And then be as the seller, because you sold it to them, right? Is it fair? No way in hell is it fair. But unfortunately, that happens in this day and age. So make sure you as a seller or you as the buyer know the person you're in that transaction with. Better yet, if you have business cards, exchange the business cards. I've gone through and I've seen, once again, some great radios, some great deals and stuff. And I'm like, well, do you have a card or anything like that? And they'll be like, no, I don't have a card. I'm just selling the radios, that kind of thing. Well, maybe I'm not going to go ahead and do anything then, because I don't want that to happen, So that's kind of that one aspect on there. Another thing, when you're going ahead and looking at these kind of things, if you have questions about the seller, use your friends, use your network, okay? I'm in Wisconsin, obviously. Orlando's pretty far away from me. There's people that go to that event and sell stuff. But I know friends. I have friends in the Orlando area. I have friends around there. So if I see something that's a little suspicious or a little weird, I'm not going to be afraid to walk away, back away for a little bit, pick up my phone, and then check them. As a buyer, I'm not going to be afraid to call and say, hey, I got this guy over here. You want to meet me over here and see if you know this guy? Or, hey, this guy seems kind of fishy. Do you know, blah, 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 call sign person, stuff like that. And I've had friends that have told me, oh yeah, he's the guy that does this kind of things like that. Not a problem. And I've had other times where like, yeah, this guy is totally on the up and up. If you buy a radio from him, you will definitely be good. And to be honest with you, I see a lot of friends of mine and people that are friends and with me on like social media and stuff that go to these events, and I've made some good friendships by going out there. So that's kind of the thing. Now let's talk about payment and then kind of expressing warranties a little bit on there. First of all, never, ever, 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 ever assume a warranty is going to be implied or given when you're buying, first of all, anything used, but more so electronics. I'm sorry, folks. It happens a lot. Lots of times people will buy electronics that was pulled when working from a state. If sometimes it's a previous public safety kind of clean out or something where some people bought a lot of radios that the public safety agency they know was getting rid of, that all pulled from service. Well, yeah, that might have been working when pulled from service, but you don't know anything from there. So in this case, it really is truly a buyer beware. If the person is usually a reputable seller, they will go ahead and they'll say, yeah, I can power the radio up for you, test it here, those kind of things like that. And then other times they may just have a radio sitting on there, no battery, no antenna, no nothing, sold as is. Well, some people think as is a great time to go ahead and haggle with it and bring it down. But sometimes people just don't have the time to go ahead and saying, I went through each one on there, but this lot of radios was working, that kind of thing like that on there. Different situations for different people. But once again, never, ever, 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 ever assume that the radio is going to come with a warranty. Alrighty? Understand that each radio that you buy, you do inherit a risk of the radio not being fully functional, or the radio may being impaired, or the radio may having a situation where it has some weak tendencies in it that might need to be repaired. You see what I'm saying? So, always be aware of that. But once again, don't be afraid to ask questions of the seller, but don't be an annoying buyer. Okay. I say that because if you're going to see a radio that you want to buy or something, you are going to know some of the specifications on there. When I am in the role of the seller and I have buyers come through and they're asking me a ton of questions on it, one or two things. One, they're either not 100% familiar with said radio or product, or two, they're trying to find something wrong with the radio, and in turn, they want to do that in order to make it cheaper. Let me tell you something. If you have a good price on your radio and you're a reputable seller, you're not going to have a hard time selling it at all. You're not, okay? Provided the market is rich for going ahead and selling these radios. If you're trying to sell an old, I don't know, unit and CB from 3 years ago, well, maybe that's not going to be a hot item. Who knows? Just giving you an example. So just be aware of that. Now let's talk about payment. Payment is a very, very, very big issue in this day and age. Alrighty. I take it from the people's court that when you are doing a transaction and you are going to be paying with a check, if people accept checks, most people won't accept checks now. But if you're going to be making a payment of something like that, better yet, or if you're going ahead and you're paying with cash, get a receipt for your transaction. Okay? Get a receipt for your transaction. Even if like Judge Millian, when she was on, once again, on the people court, take some sort of toilet paper and crayons and write it down. Get that seller's name on there, okay? Get that information on there. Then document what's on the radio. Get a serial number for the radio. Get an exact model and specification for the radio. If you can't get particulars on it, then you have no recourse from ever it happening again, okay? And there's been stories, horrible stories through the ages and stuff, like people that have sold bad products that weren't theirs, those kind of things like that. If you get this receipt and everything like that, and God forbid something happens with the radio, it was stolen, it was someone, took it off their department fire truck or whatever, and all of a sudden you're found to have the radio, what do you have to go on by? You have like, yeah, officer, I was at this event, and it was a guy, he was out back in the flea market area, had a white camper, was and give a description of that. People are going to be like, yeah, okay, some guy, right? Or some gal, or right, or something like that on there. No. Go ahead and do that. Get that documentation going on there, especially for payment. If you are paying with certain different means and stuff like that, like cashless or electronic nature, that's another area where you want to express some concern. Make sure you are using a pay service that has recourse, okay? What I mean by that is that if you're going to be paying with PayPal, okay, great. PayPal's recourse, as long as you are paying with goods and services and not friends and family. Sometimes sellers say, oh, pay me with friends and family because then I won't get hit with the 3 or 3.5% for taking the money. Well, if you do friends and family, there is no recourse whatsoever. If you go ahead and saying, oh, okay, yeah, you want to buy this radio from me? Okay, cool. Here, buy this radio. Like I want to buy the radio from you. I should say I'm the buyer. You're the seller. Okay, cool. I got it. All right, this is really great and everything like that on there. Okay, how much does it cost? It costs $100. Okay, cool. Do you take PayPal? Yeah, but send it to me to friends and family. Okay, so I send it to friends and family. Now let's say I take the radio home, and let's say I find out that this radio is not what this radio says to be. Maybe it's not an HT1250, and maybe it's a different model radio, or maybe even it is one of the European versions, and they took the plate and the cover off of a US version of radio and swapped it, and now you can't read it because it's not truly an HT1250. It's something else on there. Okay? If you were to go and try to file a chargeback and you use friends and family, PayPal or other services would be like, sorry, friends and family has no recourse. But if I use goods and services, now I have a chance to go ahead and open up a dispute with PayPal. Now I have a chance to go ahead and do that. And I had to recently do that on a radio that I purchased, where the person and I entered into agreement. I purchased the radio, but I was not getting the radio received. And, I'll send it out this day. 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 And all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, I'm not getting there. And I mean, that kind of thing. Long story short, the radio did come to me. But once again, critical point, I actually started to start the process to file a chargeback with PayPal because it wasn't coming. But maybe that notice that went to that person that accepted my money was like, oh shit, we got to get on this. We got to get on top of this. And everything turned out good for me. However, there's other people that it does not turn out well for them. In addition, when you're coming to payment, red flags should go off in your mind if the payment is being asked to be given to a different person. So if I'm here and you're buying a radio from me and I'm saying send it over to, Heather's account and stuff like that, and Heather's my wife or something like that, that's kind of fishy in my book there, okay? Now, sometimes people have joint PayPal accounts, whatever the case may be, but if they don't have a PayPal account and they got a whole spread of radios they're trying to sell, I think that would go ahead and raise some flags up there. Now, the final thing to talk about on tonight's episode, or to consider, is the radio, okay? And what I mean by the radio is what are you really trying to buy, okay? Lots of times we see good deals and stuff like that, but when you're buying, once again, a used radio, you have to assume that everything that you're buying or is coming with the radio may not be good. The radio itself may be good, but the accessories may not. So, example I use here is I picked up an HT1250 here with the full keypad for a very, very good price. Okay, I'm not going to say what it was, but I'm just going to tell you really, really good price. To the point that it was such a good price that they actually had two and I bought them. Okay, now, with that being said, one of the things that I did notice about it is it had the extended VHF antenna on there. Sweet. It had a battery that came with it. Cool. Guess what? The battery was crap. Okay, happens, right? You can't get mad. You can't get upset knowing that, hey, I'm buying a used radio that battery might be crap. There have been other times where I purchased antennas where the antennas, you flex it a little bit and then it shows through. This happens to be pretty good antenna. There's no cracks, no nothing in there. But once again, when I bought this radio, if I'm expecting the antenna and the battery to be 100%, full charge capacity and everything like that, nah, don't. Some of the things you do want to think also too is that when you're buying radios, are you willing to sacrifice getting this radio you want without the support of the radio further on? What I mean by that is discontinued radios. So obviously the HT1250 series has been discontinued for a while, right? Okay, I have to understand that if I buy this radio, there is a very, very, very great chance that I will not be able to get support for this radio. Now, what does support mean? Support means maybe antennas. Well, a lot of people make aftermarket antennas. Support might mean batteries. Well, guess what? They're still making batteries for this model, so I'm okay with that. But if I need components to fix, if I need a component to fix the PTT or the button or channel selection knob or something like that, guess what? I may not be able to find this model anymore. Motorola isn't going to go ahead and give me help or anything in that case. I might find some used ones, okay? And then in that case, I might be able to, combine the parts together. That's why I happened to see this person had such a great deal. They said, well, I got one more left. I bought the two of them at a really great price. I can probably make a safe estimation that with two of these, I can make one good radio. And that's all I want is one good radio. But you have to be able to understand that. These types of radios require software or CPS, okay? And a programming cable. Okay, it's not front keypad, even though it has a keypad on it, it's not front keypad. So what do I have to do? Well, now I have to say to myself, do I have software for it? Do I have the programming cable for it? What if I don't have the software for it? What if I don't have the programming cable for it? In addition, some other radios that are out there that may still sort of be in production, okay? You also have to take a look at that too if you're looking on the commercial line of things. Oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do is that, if I want to buy this radio, but the software, oh my God, the software is like $300. Yeah, it could be. It very well could be up to $300. So you have to put that in the back of your mind. Okay, you really do. Okay, on there. And that's going to come to the need or want and the necessity compounded by the workmanship of it. And what I mean by that is, do I really need it? Do I really want it? Is it something that I have to have for a specific purpose? And then what is going to be my support on there? I've had friends that have gone ahead and come up to me and said, God, I bought this radio and I can't get anything help for it or this or this or this or this. And it was a Max Track radio, Motorola Max Track Mobile. He was going to go ahead and use for packet. Well, duh. You know what I mean? It's like that radio is so old. Yeah, you can make your own programming cable with like an Ethernet cable and stuff like that on there. But the software is so old it like runs on DOS, right? It like you don't have it. So you can't get mad at a person because you bought the radio fully well aware that you may not have the resources to use the radio. Now, in other times you might be able to. I have cables for that. I have the professional series software. Not a problem whatsoever. Cool, let's do it. That kind of thing like that on there. So those are things to go ahead and consider on there. The other things that sometimes I will go ahead and kind of warn people on when you're buying used radios is the availability of accessories. So we talked about the availability to support the radio for functionality, but let's talk about the availability of accessories. Power cables come into this kind of thing on there. Sometimes they'll use special connectors for the power cable that are not the standard, what we might know as Molex connectors or anything like that on there. So guess what? Now you might have problems on there because guess what? You don't have a power cable for it. Now you're either going to have to hack into the radio and add on some sort of power connection on your own, whatever the case may be. All right, if you're okay with that, that's fine. But understand, microphones, if you're using mobile radios, may not be available on those kind of things, older microphones. And guess what? Microphones do change, alrighty? I remember my first amateur radios had the 8-pin circular microphone connector, and then now they have the modular style connector. I can't just take and clip off the modular plug and then find a 8-pin and solder that on and stuff. It doesn't work. You can't do that. So things to keep in mind in that regards there. And I guess these are just kind of some of the things that I want to go ahead and talk to you about and bring that up to you, because I see so many people that have these issues and that takes place on there. But it's also time for that time of the show where we know, you know what really bends my antenna? You know what really bends my antenna and talking about this subject tonight is that you have to go ahead and you almost can't buy radios anymore because of a lot of the bad people that are out there. And when I say bad people out there, I mean people that try to scam people, people that try to go ahead and play off things as, oh, this and this and this and this, and try to make it so that it's your fault as the buyer, where it's really their fault as the seller. However, the other thing that really kind of bends my antenna is that buyers, we are not all superior. There are many different makes, models, companies, that kind of thing like that for different radios. There's going to be people who don't mind, unfortunately, buying a Baofeng, okay? There are not going to be problems with people buying Washun or Puxings or those kind of things like that. That's great. That's fine. If someone is selling that on there and you don't like it, you know what I do? Be the big person, continue on walk and buy. Don't bother to go ahead and do it. Buyers, it is not your job to harass the seller, okay? Sellers, though, in turn, you also have to go ahead and kind of lead by example on there. If you are going ahead and selling some radios, price them out accordingly. What I tell people to do is that, you know, in the back of the day, I would say, go ahead and take a look at what they're being sold on digital sites, such as like eBay or those kind of things like that. Yes, I did say eBay. And then find out what the pricing is for it new. And more importantly, find out what features are in the radios. Describe your radios. If you are going to only be charging for a radio cost for you're going to sell a radio, let's say, as the okay, you're going to sell the radio on there, and it's only going to be $200 less than what I can go into a place and buy the radio for brand new. Tell me why you're doing it. Are you giving me software? Are you giving me additional accessories? Are you giving me these kind of things? There have been times, and I use a rule of thumb, that if the cost of the radio brand new is only 15 to 20% more than what the person is selling the radio used, I will buy the radio brand new. And the reason I do that is because, yes, they may be offering a bunch of accessories with it or something like that, but I know if I'm buying a radio brand new and the pricing is so close, maybe the amount of accessories I'm going to get for that radio does not go ahead and validate the warranty that I'm going to get with the radio. Make sure it's a brand new radio. Make sure I have support for the radio on there. However, on the flip side of the coin, if the radio is, let's say, cheaper than 20% of a brand new radio, okay? So in other words, if a radio, argument's sake, let's say is $500 brand new, well, 20% less than 20% of 500 would go ahead and turn around to be $100 less. So if someone's going ahead and saying, hey, I'm selling this radio for $400, or I'm selling it for $375, and it comes with all this and this and this and this and this, and the radio looks to be in good shape, then by all means, I'll buy the radio if I need that radio, because it may come with more accessories. But if I'm right at that $400 mark, or once again, $450, for $100 or $150 more, I'm getting a brand new radio with a warranty and stuff. Do that. But don't try to go ahead and outprice your stuff on there. As a buyer, that pisses me off when sellers try to outprice the stuff on there, okay? Let's face it, some Chinese products are garbage, and other Chinese products are good. Stuff is made in China, folks. We have to get over that. You may not like it, but guess what? That's what happens on there. But that doesn't mean that the seller has to be belittled by you. I've been in line where some person who's a buyer is looking at it and they start berating the seller because the buyer thinks it's cheap Chinese crap. No, you have no right to go ahead and do that. Don't berate the sellers, alrighty? Because you're a buyer and you think you have it better. That's kind of a dick move, to be honest with you, on stuff like that on there. But understand that it's like buying anything else that has room to haggle. There are going to be some times where people are going to come and they're going to offer you, as the seller, a good deal on it. That's not what you're asking for, but guess what? You're in the used market. That happens. It's called haggling. Monty Python did a great explanation on that in the movie The Life of Brian, okay? but also understand though too is that if you have outrageous prices in the first place, understand that some sellers are going to come through, and I've even done it myself, where if you have a used item, once again $5 less than a brand new item, I'm going to haggle with you to see, because I'm not going to pay that kind of price for something I can get brand new. And that's tonight's, you know what really bends my antenna? So thank you for tuning into this episode. I hope these are food for thought things for you for going ahead and thinking of when you're going to buy. Lots of time these great deals come out. I am one. Okay, I bring the old, like the meme, just shut up and take my money in some cases. But then there's other times I got to say, you know what? I got to hold back. Got to take a moment, because I don't know. I have questions about the items. I have those kind of things like that. So don't be afraid to take the time. If a red flag goes up, if a gut feeling comes up in you and says, I don't think I really should buy this, then don't. Don't buy it at all. Take your time, go the other way. Okay. I look forward to seeing if anybody wants to do their exchange on there, the cigar exchange. I have had some people that have asked me, they said, John, the keychains, are you bringing any of the keychains on there? No, I'm not bringing any of the keychains. If you are interested in the keychains, hit me up and I'll see what I can go ahead and do. We did give away some keychains, and some of the people that did get them, they're really happy about them. They really enjoy it on there. So we could see about that on there. But in the meantime, if you're going to be flying, safe travels. If you're going to be driving, safe travels. And if you don't have to go that far for Hamcation, good news for you and stuff like that. But stay safe, take care. Weather's getting better up here in the upper Midwest, but it's going to be nice, and sounds like maybe 60s and 70s down in Orlando. So stay safe, and I'm going to be enjoying it, because I'll have a couple cigars there. I'll be sitting back and enjoying them. So until everybody, take care.